Imagine a world where your phone wasn't just a communication device, but a status symbol, a secure fortress for your secrets, and a gateway to instant connections all over the globe. For a brief, dazzling period, one company didn't just understand this vision. They owned it. Blackberry. But in less than a decade, this titan of industry, this seemingly unshakable empire that once commanded 50% of the smartphone market, evaporated into a cautionary tale. What really happened to Blackberry? The answer is more complex and far more tragic than simply the iPhone happened. To truly grasp the magnitude of Blackberry's fall, we first need to understand its incredible ascent. Picture the late 1990s and early 2000s. The internet was still a wild frontier, email was desktop-bound, and mobile phones were primarily for calls. Enter Research in Motion, or RIM, a Canadian company known for pagers and two-way radio networks. In 1999, they introduced the BlackBerry 850, a device that fundamentally changed what a phone could be. It offered secure, push email, not just checking your inbox, but having emails delivered to you instantly, anywhere. This was revolutionary. Coupled with a full QWERTY keyboard, it was a business professional's dream. CEOs, politicians, doctors, everyone who needed to be constantly connected but discreetly so, flocked to BlackBerry. The iconic blinking red light, the satisfying click of the keyboard, the unparalleled security features that made governments and enterprises trust it implicitly. BlackBerry became indispensable. BlackBerry Messenger, or BBM, arrived in 2005, predating WhatsApp by 4 years. It was instant, free, and more importantly, it was private. Remember those BBM pins? They were a badge of honor, a secret handshake in a burgeoning digital social sphere. Teenagers, celebrities, and even drug dealers adopted BBM, creating a viral loop of adoption that transcended its business origins. The company's unique system compressed data so efficiently that it worked even in areas with spotty network coverage, a huge advantage globally. This wasn't just a phone, it was a lifestyle, a cultural phenomenon, a brand that projected competence, privacy, and cool. By 2009, BlackBerry's market share in North America was staggering, peaking at 50%. They were on top of the world, seemingly unassailable. Their stock soared, their founders became billionaires, and the future seemed limitless. But even then, beneath the surface of their undeniable success, cracks were beginning to show. Cracks that BlackBerry, in its immense confidence, tragically failed to acknowledge. The first tremors of change weren't a catastrophic earthquake, but subtle rumblings that executives at RIM, co-CEOs Mike Lazaridis and Jim Balsillie, initially dismissed as minor inconveniences. While BlackBerry was refining its physical keyboards and enhancing its secure email, a seismic shift was occurring in the consumer market, driven by two behemoths, Apple and Google. When Steve Jobs unveiled the iPhone in 2007, Lazaridis famously scoffed, believing the touchscreen device was merely a toy for consumers, not a serious business tool. He and Balsillie doubled down on their enterprise focus, certain that their unparalleled security and physical keyboard would always win out. They saw a choice between their proven, secure, tactile experience and a frivolous, less secure, all-touch gadget. They failed to see that the market wasn't asking for a choice, it was demanding both. The iPhone didn't just introduce a new phone, it introduced an entire ecosystem with the App Store. BlackBerry, in contrast, had a nascent, unappealing app landscape. Their platform was difficult for developers, and the company struggled with internal bureaucratic hurdles to approve even basic applications. While millions of apps blossomed on iOS and Android, BlackBerry users were left in a digital desert. But it wasn't just external competition. Internal strife brewed within RIM. Lazaridis, a brilliant engineer, focused on hardware and software. Balsillie, a shrewd businessman, handled sales and operations. While this partnership was incredibly successful for years, their differing visions became a liability. They struggled to adapt to the fast-moving consumer trends, clinging to their enterprise roots while the world moved towards a consumer-driven smartphone market. There was a critical miscalculation about the power of the internet browser on a mobile device and the importance of a fluid, intuitive touch-based interface. Their own attempts at touchscreens, like the Blackberry storm, were plagued with technical issues and poor user experience. The storm, meant to be an iPhone killer, became a symbol of their inability to innovate outside their comfort zone. They were slow to embrace social media integration, high-resolution cameras, and the rich multimedia experience that consumers began to demand. The secure, button-filled device that had once been its strength became its weakness. It felt dated and clunky compared to the sleek, expansive displays of its competitors. They were too proud, too complacent, and too slow. They underestimated the power of the cool factor that the iPhone brought and overestimated the loyalty of their business clientele when those clients started demanding consumer-friendly features. They saw the rise of apps as a novelty, not a necessity, a fatal flaw that would ultimately seal their fate. What they discovered next changed everything, not in a good way. The once loyal enterprise market, seeing their employees bringing sleek Androids and iPhones to work, started demanding support for these new devices. IT departments, once beholden to BlackBerry's security, were pressed to accommodate bring-your-own-device policies. BlackBerry's tight grip on security, once its greatest asset, became a bottleneck. The company attempted a Hail Mary with the BlackBerry 10 operating system and new devices like the Z10 and Q10 in 2013. These were beautiful modern phones, and BB10 itself was a remarkably innovative OS, with features like Peek and Flow that offered truly fresh ways to interact with a smartphone. But it was too little, too late. The app gap was insurmountable. Developers had already committed to iOS and Android, and convincing them to build for a third struggling platform was a losing battle. Consumers simply didn't care for another great operating system if it didn't have their favorite apps. The market had already matured, and the vast chasm between BlackBerry and its competitors was now an ocean. Management upheavals followed. Lazaridis and Balsillie were eventually ousted, replaced by Thorsten Heinz, who then gave way to John Chen. Each new leader grappled with the same agonizing reality. The core business was hemorrhaging. They tried Android phones like the Priv, a slider phone that married BlackBerry's keyboard with Android's ecosystem, but it failed to capture significant market share. The brand had lost its luster, its identity diluted, and its once fierce fan base had moved on. Production of BlackBerry phones by the company itself ceased in 2016, with the brand name licensed out to TCL Communications for a few more years, before even that partnership dissolved. The once proud symbol of corporate power was now relegated to a software and security company, a silent shadow of its former glory. To this day, BlackBerry's story remains a poignant lesson in corporate arrogance and the brutal, unforgiving nature of technological disruption. It wasn't just about missing one trend. It was about a fundamental failure to understand the shifting landscape of consumer desires and the exponential power of ecosystem development. While they still exist as a software and cybersecurity company, largely unnoticed by the general public, their once dominant smartphone empire is a ghost, a relic of a bygone era. Their pivot into security and enterprise software shows resilience, but the dream of a BlackBerry in every pocket, once a vivid reality, is a testament to how quickly even the mightiest can fall when they stop innovating and truly listening to the market. What else did they miss? And what might their story mean for today's tech giants who feel equally invincible? The question lingers, a cautionary whisper in the annals of technological history.